last year when I got back into photography, I decided to get into street photography. And I saw all these people doing these point of view videos where they would walk around and they had their camera in some weird setup. And so I did this. Look at this. I have a camera on my forehead, so when I go out and I shoot, this camera on my forehead also shows you what I'm doing. It's point of view street photography. So we can look at the elevator that I'm in, and we can... This is kind of a dumb purchase. It's kind of a dumb purchase. Look at me using my phone. Now, that's something you already had on hand, dummy. Don't call yourself names. I don't care that I look silly. I care that I bothered spending the money doing this and that it doesn't ultimately matter. I don't need this technology that I bought. So you come out to a place like this in the early morning before anybody's actually up or doing anything, and you get a different perspective. But I don't know. Is it fun to take you around on the walk? Maybe. But I think if I do it with the video in mind, then what happens is I start thinking about producing the video and making sure you're happy and making sure you have interesting things to look at. And I don't think that gives us the best use of our time, but who knows? So I'm gonna wait for this bus to show. I feel it's gonna turn. Nope. Perfect. I'm gonna go over here and check this thing out, because I bet I can get a couple nice little snaps of that. This, by the way, is Plum Island, which is right beside Newburyport, and it's a nice little area that faces the ocean, and there's all these huge marshes. So anyway, this is what I'm looking at. This place is like a bar. You come here at night and just kind of hang out in the pretend beach while you drink your drinks. I think it was Jennifer who had asked the question about what do I do after I've done the shots? You know, like, so I've gone out and I've done my photo walk. Sorry, microphone. I've gone out and I've done my photo walk, but then what do I do? And the answer is I have a very simple process. I take the SD card out of the camera. I put it into a little SD card reader. I slot that into my laptop, and then I take and open up a program, an editing program called Luminar Neo. The reason I bought Luminar Neo was because I was using, sorry again, microphone. I was using Adobe Lightroom Classic, but Adobe Lightroom Classic you pay for it with a monthly subscription fee. And it kept going up and up and up. And I kept thinking, you know, I don't want to subscribe to this software. And so I instead put on Luminar Neo. And I like it. It's got a bunch of AI features to it. And that's fine. except that, so I use Luminar Neo, and Luminar Neo for editing is doing great for me. It's got some AI features, so you can kind of lean into that if you want. And it's got a lot of stuff that you could use in projects like Lightroom. And so when I go in there, the first thing I do is I delete all the obviously not great photos. And for me, what happens is sometimes, I mean, not counting things like where the focus is wrong and all that, what happens to me sometimes is that I will think something looks kind of cool, and then I will get it back to my house and I will go, this is a boring photo. And so I won't put that one in. And that's fine. And I think that's a good way to do it. I think that after I delete blurry ones, then boring ones, I then go through and I start my actual editing process. Now in editing, what I try for first is I usually see how far, there's kind of an auto feature in changing exposure and contrast and some of that. And a lot of times I'll push the auto button and see what it thinks is the right exposure for a piece. A lot of times it's not bad. A lot of other times I end up sort of pulling back on certain things or deciding, geez, this thing's not especially bright. Maybe I should make it brighter. And so I take care of that. And then after that, I decide whether or not, if any, kinds of like editing effects I'm going to use. Am I going to sort of treat the colors a certain way or anything like that? Or am I going to enhance it a little bit more? And with Luminar Neo, there's a feature called Enhance, and it's kind of an AI feature that ups the saturation, ups the contrast, ups a little bit of the exposure, kind of like brightens everything up a little more. And I started my first time using that editing software, I would use that a lot. And then over time, what I feel like I come up with if I use that is I come up with photos that look a little kind of close to what a camera phone does. You know what I mean? It does some of the similar look and feel and energy, for lack of a better term, of a camera phone. And so instead what I do is I kind of keep to just a very few specific kinds of edits. Oh, and then related but not entirely, I also have to kind of adjust the horizon a little bit, because oh my gosh, I shoot like I'm some kind of drunken sailor. I swear I'm aiming straight on and level with the thing I'm taking a photo of, but I can't tell you how many times I get home and it looks just a little bit canted and tilted, to the point that I feel like my eyeballs must think it's straight. I have lines on the back of my camera that tell me how something is lined up or not, and I still make it not so straight. So that's what I do. So I edit. Then what I do is once I've got the editing all done, I guess I missed a step in this, in that I shoot in what's called RAW format, which means that I can do all these edits. If you shoot in something like JPEG, you just don't get as many edits that you can do. For instance, if a photo's a little too dark in JPEG, it's a little too dark. You can't make it look a lot better. With RAW photos, I can pull out some of stuff out of the darkness and make it look a little more appropriate to what I saw at the time. So anyway, I finish all the edits. I then export all the photos out of that software back into a format that I can use, like JPEG, and it makes huge JPEGs because my camera quality is so good that the file format is pretty big. So then, right after I do that step, I grab the whole folder of my exports and I resize them into something that I can share on like social networks and things like that. And so if you see me sharing something like Blue Sky, or you see me sharing something like LinkedIn, or rarely on Instagram, or Glassdot Photo, a lot of times it's after I've resized things to look a certain way. So that's what I do when I come back. Coming back to that topic from the beginning of this video about gear and how you don't necessarily need a whole lot of gear, I am really leaning into that more and more and more. this action camera that I use, the one that was on my head earlier in the video, I don't need it. I could do a lot of the same stuff with a phone. The microphone I'm using, this DJI microphone, it's good, and I think better audio is better than not having better audio. It's why it sounds even vaguely passable, me talking to you while driving in the car, for instance. But do I need it? No, not really. My phone could have been just fine for the video aspects of making YouTube. So why did I get an action cam? Why did I get this microphone? Why did I do these things that I've done? I think part of it was that when you see something being produced, you want to kind of emulate it, and you say to yourself, oh, well, I probably need to do these kinds of things. And you kind of go down a rabbit hole of following. And I think every time you follow, you get yourself into trouble. I mean, it's great to sort of learn from other people. It's not great to kind of go as far as they go, because, you know, that's like jumping on the train and sitting next to someone and getting off at whatever stop they get off. You know, you have a destination, and your destination is not always the one of the person that you're next to. So that's that part of it. The other part about with gear, I just had this conversation on Reddit today, because someone was saying that they heard that once you kind of get your camera body figured out, you should really devote all your energy to the lenses. I think that's true. I think that once you kind of have the camera you really think you want for shooting, and it clicks enough of the boxes and pleases you enough and has the functions and features that you really want, you should stop right there and not worry about if there's something slightly better, marginally better, a little bit better. You should definitely just use what you have once you're happy with it. You could even argue that sometimes you should use what you have even if you're not happy with it, but with that Sony a7 IV, I'm happy with it. Every now and again I think to myself, oh, I wish I had an even smaller, more like compact kind of camera, but you know what? I do. It's called the Sony a6000. And so now I'm good. I have two bodies that do two different things. And then you switch to lenses. And when it comes to the gear there, really been thinking about this a lot. Once you have a sense of what kind of thing you're going to photograph the most, then you should kind of build the capabilities you have around that. Meaning, you don't necessarily need a big, long, huge 600 millimeter bird lens unless you really want to take incredible pictures of birds. I do not. I want to take pictures of people and scenes and settings around those people and kind of like environments. And for that, lately, I've been very thrilled with the 35 millimeter focal length. And so I've been using that lens more than any other right now. And I think I could narrow I've sold a bunch of lenses. I think I could narrow it down even more based on what I've been spending most of my time shooting. And I think from there, then the only thing I could choose to do is, I have some pretty good lenses. There are certainly some slightly higher quality, not even slightly, largely higher quality lenses I could replace some of the lenses with, but I'm also good right now. I'm good with what I have right now. So I have very little to complain about. And I think that's an important part to be in life. I think especially when it comes to the concept of meditating, you know, we're supposed to meditate, not to say that things are good or that we're happy or whatever, but that where we are is where we are, and what we have is what we have. And we should be more or less locked into a way in which we are not troubled by want. Not troubled by want. Good place as any to think about feeling differently about chasing gear and stuff like that. I'm going to end on a slightly contrary thought though, because every now and again something does come along that we go, wow, that turns out to really have changed things a lot for me. And so if we don't at least keep our eye open to possibility and stay flexible to possibility, we're missing one last function, right? Because the difference between, being content with what you have versus being closed to there being any other possibilities, I think those are two different things, and maybe you agree with me. I'd love to know if you want to comment or send me an email, chris@chrisbrogan.com. But I'm going to get back to what I'm doing right now, and you get back to what you're doing right now. And I want to thank everyone who dropped me a line from my last video. It's really kind of feeling like, man, what am I even doing? And you answered. So that's what I'm doing. I appreciate your time. Thanks so much for everything you've done. Chris@chrisbrogan.com. And as always, be good to yourself, okay?